Hi, and welcome to Chain Reactions, a weekly live stream from Myosin.xyz, the leading global marketing network, and hosted by yours truly, Blake, and my co-host, Polina. Tune in each week as we jam on the latest happenings in the wild and wonderful world of Web3. We're live on onlonely.app every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Eastern, and release the pod every following week on Tuesdays. Now, let's talk Chain Reactions. Welcome everyone to Chain Reactions, one time a week where we gather and bring on interesting guests to talk about the latest and greatest in marketing and Web3. Today we have our very special guest, Nicole. How are you doing, Nicole?
Great. Thank you very much. How are you guys?
We're doing great. Real quick, hold on. Let's just do it quick while we're live. As people start to filter in, we should probably do a quick retweet. So let me just pull up the link.
I'm doing that as we're speaking, just like posting in all the chats in our Discord everywhere.
Give us a few minutes maybe here for some quick promo, folks, as we get this up and running. Let's get into it. But this is going to be a really fun conversation. I'm excited to chat with Nicole here, one of our innovation leads, all around how she got into Web3 and you know what that really means. So stay tuned. So I got this. Let's go. But Nicole, how are things going in Lisbon while we're doing
It is stunning. I feel like it's the last day of summer. It's like 75 degrees. Like there's not a cloud in the sky. There's zero wind. It is gorgeous. I was going to take this outside. Oh, sorry. It's like 25, 26. Yeah.
Oh, it's the same in Malta then. We're in the same sort of weather conditions.
This does track.
Yeah, I love it.
Amazing.
Perfect. All right.
Are we?
Join us. I think I'm ready to go. Are you guys ready to go? Should we get into things?
Yes. We'll post it everywhere.
All right. Let's kick it off, y'all. Yeah, I mean, how should we go about it? I guess, Nicole, welcome to the live stream /pod/ the chat. We'd love to have you tell us a bit about yourself and just kind of how you found your way into this wild and wonderful world of Web3. Tell us more.
Yeah, loaded question. But let me, I think everyone has like a really... Let's take a step back. I'll just give like a little bit of context and background on myself because it's more of like a journey rather than like a moment, I think. And like a lot of industries, Web3 kind of just happens to you, right? I think. So it's more of like an evolution. Just for like TLDR, my background is in marketing. I've been in marketing for 15 years, more trad marketing, of course. So working for like FMCG brands, luxury lifestyle brands, producing campaigns across the States, the UK and EU. And like really loving that element of bringing everything together and kind of like elevating creative prowess or ideas or IP and bringing them to life. And then my journey into Web3 kind of really started at, like during the pandemic pivot. I think that's another story. But we had a lot of clients at the time that were doing experiential campaigns that obviously couldn't activate because of the restrictions. And we started focusing on a term called like future proofing, right? So like how do you interact with the brand and create meaningful connections with your audiences when you can't actually physically interact with them, because we know how valuable that is. And so that's when I started working with like headless middleware and bringing in developer teams to create experiences, like shoppable experiences within live streams and things like that. And that was really fun. And also like working with brands that would have maybe like a collection launch that was shoppable inside of Fortnite and things like that. And so all of a sudden there's like digital assets that are kind of being woven into the campaigns. Still very early for NFTs. I think this was like the percolating of collectibles really, and maybe some like key NFT like IP pieces. And kind of at the same time, my husband and all of his friends were like nerding out on this conversation around NFTs and crypto, and that kind of like piqued my interest, and I started exploring it. And you know, like I think even today it's probably one of those things that you look at from myself not being a technical person, right? Like I'm not a developer, being like, where, like, how does this like work? Like, how would you kind of break that barrier? And so looking at kind of like non-technical roles, I think there were like 3. So it was like Gemini, Rarible and Dapper Labs, and those kind of vacillating between those three. And I ended up getting onboarded to Dapper Labs, working across the Flow pipeline as the head of art partnerships. So onboarding IP, institutions, brands, very much crawl, walk, run. A lot of what we do at Myosin as well with our Web2 clients. Education, onboarding, building go-to-market strategies, tokenomics, plugging in developer teams, all the way to launch. A lot of like white glove service and handholding. But the reason why I really wanted to get into this space, and especially as this role specifically, is because in the past, I've worked with artists, digital artists, that have had a really hard time selling their digital artwork or having it have perceived value, right? It's not tangible, and there's not a way to track provenance. One of my stories is like running around Art Basel Miami with a USB key, which is like this $15,000 video housed in a plastic whatever, and trying to convince other people that it's worth that value, right? It's like, it can be reproduced. I have no control, you know, you're not going to put a watermark on it. That's not premium. And so really finding, oh my gosh, there's this like parallel economy for artists and creators to exist. There's, you know, different conversations around royalties and kickbacks. And it just kind of opened up this whole, that was like my aha moment, which really motivated me to want to get into this space. That's my origin story.
That's a good story.
There's a lot there. There's a lot to unpack. So, I mean, let's dive deeper into it, right? So I think as you got into the space, right, and you ended up at Dapper, like, tell us more about the experience. Because I think, you know, here we are in 2024. It's been a crazy journey, right, over the past couple of years. And so we'd love to just, you know, kind of get the inside scoop on your experiences there as comfortable as you feel disclosing, of course, right? But, you know, I think NFTs
it's more like a time warp. It's a time warp thing. It's like it's only been 4 years. I feel like it's been centuries. I have like gray hair now. Like I should have built in like a Botox retainer. Like there's all these things like startup life.
When we work in crypto, it feels like in a decade, right? Yeah. So tell us.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know to what degree I can swear, so I'm not going to, but I would say the industry was bleep hot at the time when I entered, right? It was like NFT frenzy, like IP, you know, crypto punks, et cetera. And so everyone and their mom, like literally, was trying to get into crypto and find an edge or a space or how to kind of repurpose their IP of like, you know, like weird drawings of that their 5-year-old child, you know what I mean? So like everyone thought that they had like a valuable asset. It was really interesting as well from a perspective of institutions or estates that had access and like licensing access to all this IP to come in and see how they could potentially tokenize it. And, you know, there's just like celebrities and, you know, everything was really kind of percolating. And it's interesting because then you come to this like filter, because it's like some of this stuff has stickiness and a lot of it just doesn't. It's like any industry, right? There's like a filter. And so it was really kind of like at first, like in Web3, you're drinking from a fire hose. Like you don't know where to go. You don't know where to look. And there's not a lot of, you know, guidelines because we're kind of it's like Wild West. We're kind of charting this path. So, you know, like I think the first 3 to 6 months was like really figuring out what those parameters should be to qualify, you know, projects. Obviously like tier 1 was always like the key. But then it's like, what is sustainable? Because for an ecosystem, a flash in the pan NFT collection is not sustainable, especially if you don't have a lot of trading volume and a community that's building around it, right? And so then it was kind of going from speculation back to community and sustainability as that kind of journey progressed. And then really building out infrastructure within the ecosystem as well to support it, because it's like, you have all these NFTs, but you don't have any marketplaces for them to be traded in the ecosystem. And, you know, Flow up until recently was very much not composable with EVM. And so you had this kind of walled garden around a walled garden to operate within. So a lot of learnings.
Honestly, like I feel like because we wanted to talk, you know, about how to enter Web3 in general, from what I heard is like, you know, it was traditional marketing and then Dapper Labs. And for many people, it's just like, what the hell? It's because Dapper Labs is huge, right? Because, right, like it's really much like a lot of people are struggling to understand how to enter Web3 from a point of it seems so just like a walled garden. I mean, now it's, I would say, a bit better, but for a lot of people, it's like this puzzle that they can put together. How do you enter it? Whereas I don't think like there's no one way to enter it. It's kind of like you just start learning and like putting yourself out there more, and that's how you kind of from a stranger turn towards something else. That's sort of more of my path, because I wasn't really part of like any big team, I would say. So I wonder, like, how did this switch to Dapper Labs even happen?
Well, it wasn't without, I mean, it was as graceful as I could make it, but there's like, it's one of those things, it's learning a new language, I think is what you're describing. Is like, there's going to be this space where you feel like very isolated because you're like, am I the only one that has no idea what's going on right now? Until you learn, right? And then you kind of have to fake it till you make it and like build that foundational knowledge. So I had like a 3-month time period to like ramp up my foundational knowledge, and I really started with podcasts. That was like my thing. I was like, I'm going to find what podcasts are going to resonate with me and the role that I'm doing, and learn as much as I can, as fast as I can, to contextualize all of this information. And it was really helpful because I started with, I think, NFT Now and Edge of NFT. And I think they had like, right? They were like this amazing conversational podcast where you would meet founders, you would meet marketplace owners, you would talk to people that were bringing their IP into this space. And then all of a sudden the dots started connecting in a really like important way. Like everything made sense. It leveled up. And then it's like, then you get into like the space, and what you realize is we're kind of all learning this together. Right. And so like, there are going to be times when you have to level up. And so I still have like a notion of vocab. Like back then I had a book, I was less notion forward, but of just like vocab words. If I didn't understand it, I'd write it down in a meeting and I'd go back and do my research, right? So that I could come back smarter. And I think that's also the industry itself, is like, you have to be a self-starter, right? Like nothing's given to you. You have to be able to carve out that information for yourself.
Was Twitter also like how were you discovering this podcast? I mean, I know you can search for Web3, then it's it's pretty clear, but
I don't really know. Maybe I think I might have just been as like searching in the Apple podcast
really?
For like, and yeah, maybe it was like 1 or 2 founders, obviously like trying to learn as much as, when you join a new company, you're trying to learn as much about the founders, their origin story, how they came to be. So it might've been actually through, researching the founders and then finding a podcast or their key, their like turnkey IP, which is initially it was CryptoKitties and then NBA Top Shot. And I think it was potentially through that avenue. I think you missed maybe the beginning of when Blake and I were talking, but my Twitter proficiency is not
close to 0.
It's not as strong as you might think, but I definitely like Twitter is obviously like a huge like channel for us, right? And so when I'd work with artists and IP, I'm in Twitter, but I'm not like in Twitter. Like,
why?
I guess, if that helps. I don't know. I just feel like
before we lose it, quick show.
Yeah.
While we're talking about podcasts, if you are interested in learning about entering Web3, there is a great podcast you should listen to. Just search Myosin.xyz in your Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else, and you can find some great content, including this chat. That's all. Back to you.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe, and give us 5 stars. Thank you. Anyways, Twitter.
So Twitter is a channel. I don't know. It just doesn't. I just don't vibe with it. I don't know. I use it. I engage with it, but I'm not like hungry for it in the same way from like a content consumption thing. And I also think there's maybe some things you just can't do well. And so maybe I've like designated my like, that's Twitter for me. I don't know.
How did you discover Myosin?
Through the most organic Myosin way possible, through a Myosin member. I was actually speaking to them about a separate role when I was freelancing out on my own in the scary world. And I was connected. We were talking through like a project potentially to be onboarded on. And she had recommended that I speak to Blake and Simon about Myosin.
Wait, so you're not... Again? I don't even remember. Too many people.
Alexa.
Alexa.
Oh, Alexa. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice.
You're like, should I say? Should I not say it? Should I
Shout out
say?
to no. Why?
I was like, am I going to pronounce it right? That's sorry, Alexa.
Oh, it's Alexa. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and we work together. We got to work together as well through the Shiseido project. So that was awesome. Came kind of full circle.
Okay, so are you part of any other, Web3 related community, or did you ever want to be part of one?
I am part of
It's okay.
the boys club.
You'll only hurt
No,
my
I
feelings
know.
a little bit. No, I'm kidding.
I have my own cult.
Yeah.
No, I'm part of boys club. But the community I'm most active in is Myosin.
Yeah,
I would say.
I think now, I mean, also when I started to be more active in Web3, my journey was like very drastically sort of different from the perspective of I was just on Twitter trying to learn more because I wasn't active on LinkedIn really, and on Instagram was just a lot of trash. So on Twitter, I was finding a lot of like insightful marketing content, but generally I was taking more towards Web2 marketing. And then Web3 started to come on my timeline a lot, and I realized it felt way more supportive, and it felt like nobody knew what they were doing and they were honest about it, whereas in Web2 everyone pretends like they know what they're doing, but they don't most of the time. So I started to lean more and more towards that and learn. So also drinking from the fire hose, like reading all the Medium articles, all the podcasts that I could possibly listen to. So a lot of these podcasts are not around anymore, I feel like, which is a bit sad.
I know. I had to look up if NFT now is still around today. So I was going to drop it as a resource.
Is it? No, it's not.
I mean, there's the news source. I think it is.
Yeah, just the news. I think because there's also NFT for newbies and like NFT 365 that I really like because it was like a daily podcast. And I remember who was hosting it now. Don't remember, but it was a lot of great content, to be honest. And it was, I just loved how everyone was supportive, and I started to put myself out there more and sort of getting to know people more because also, I'm based in Slovenia, so for me going to Web3 events is like non-existent in the country, literally. So meeting somewhere with the same interest was impossible.
Did you guys get
That's why we have internet friends.
That's an advertise. No, I was going to ask Paulina, from your experience, were you like, because I kind of got this energy, like, especially when like NFTs, like, well, I do crypto, I do NFTs. I didn't mean to say it like that, but you know what I mean? But like you go to a dinner table and people are like, what do you do? And I'm like, I do NFTs. And they're like, okay, changing the seats. Like, they don't have to sit.
Yeah, a lot of people ask me even today, like, what do you do? I'm like, oh yeah, I do marketing. And then like, oh, but what kind of marketing? I'm like, okay, I do, social media marketing for crypto brands mostly. And they're like, whenever they hear crypto, they're just like, oh, okay.
It's like their face goes like,
oh, wait, this is why when I meet people, you have to say blockchain. Yeah, I never say crypto.
And they would be like, what?
Yeah, I don't know. I think
it's hard. Blockchain.
I'm always I'm always evangelizing, so maybe that's just me. I don't know, but it seems.
I also think people get like an earful from like really like overly excited. There's like a type, right, that is like crypto, and you're like, oh, like even in our industry, right? Like it's, and I think maybe people are a little bit turned off by that, and so there's like a barrier that goes up. It's like, I'm good, And then I also think it's like it. We have a responsibility in a sense to help kind of normalize that, right? And help people understand what that means. Because I think we're afraid of what we don't know, right?
Web3. Yeah. How do you onboard the people? Hey, yeah.
Yeah, but I think that it's just, it's scary for most people, and the industry has a really bad rep. So I don't... Like whenever if somebody asks me a question, I'm happy to reply to, but I'm not pushing it on anyone, sort of. And I am of the opinion that the tech has to be invisible. Like, I don't know how my, fiber optics or whatever are connected. And I don't care, I only care that I have access to the internet when I need, and that's all. I don't care where my, like, I don't know what servers my provider, this is all like gibberish to me, to be honest, because my boyfriend is like super technical, and he's really inspired by all of this, like servers and everything. And whenever he talks to me, I'm just like, that's very cool.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Nicole. Yeah.
No, you go. Sorry, like, go for it.
No, I'm just saying, I think that's why when I talk to people, I agree with you. I'm not trying to, when I meet someone, it's the first thing I say. Yeah, I'm very similar in that. People ask me, they'll be like, oh, marketing. They'll be like, marketing what? I'll be like, tech. And they'll be, where in tech? I'll be like, blockchain. And then you kind of have to read the response of like, are they actually interested? If so, then it's like, rub your hands together. It's like, let's get into it. And then a lot of people don't care. But then what I find is like you start to have conversations and people start complaining about the economy, about inflation, or about all these other things. I'm like, oh, you know what? And then that's how I like red pill them into it, is you just have to talk about like, what the challenge with inflation is money printing. And what happens with money printing, the fact that there's, fiat currency is not backed by anything. And then you can like, so it's all these like subtle ways. And then also what I love to talk to people about is the consumer applications, right? So when we talk about like music, it's always around like, well, like I have a lot of musician friends actually, right? And, I talk to them all the time, and they're, about royalties, right? And I'm not saying, oh, mint your music on chain, but it's the idea of like fan loyalty and all that type of stuff is quite interesting. So I think it's about just trying to meet people where they're at, right? And understand like, what are the challenges you guys are facing today? I have a lot of friends complaining about their savings and interest rates. It's like, it's not going to get any better, because if you put your money into a traditional checking account and you're making 0.0%, whatever, you're losing 6% to inflation every year, right? Anyways, this is a little like yap fest here about
100% though. Look, like people aren't going to care unless it unlocks value for them, right? Period. Like
exactly.
To Paulina's point about like servers, like I don't think about, oh, the internet is working, and like my head isn't doing that meme where I'm like, oh, the internet unlocking email. No, I'm getting the email. That's like the end game, right? That is the end result. I know that the internet has value. Blockchain, to your point, should be on the back end. The conversation around it should be the upfront value that is, you're consuming or experiencing. Right?
Yeah. I'm also scared to push anything already, because I'm Russian, right? And my family is still in there. And when stuff happened, whatever happened 2 years ago, everyone was
evasive. I get it.
I'm really like, and obviously, I mean, my family is very much pro like Western, I would say, Westernized and like modern. So they had money saved, and obviously the thought that comes first is like, okay, we're gonna just lose everything because everything's gonna go to shit. And I was pushing them to put it in Terra Luna because it was such a good yield and stuff. And I was like, this is so easy. It's gonna be like, I have money there. It's just gonna be.
I'm so scared.
They didn't do it.
Oh, okay.
So it was like that was a month before the collapse, I would say, ish. Because it was quite complicated with like the transaction, buying
I don't blame you, though.
dollars and stuff. And I was like, after this, I'm like, I'm not gonna do it to anyone. Like, this is not worth it. Put it under, your matrix, and just that's it.
It's too much stress. Like, give them, like, be like, here's the information. You do what you need to do with it.
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
I'm okay with telling people these are the options, and this is what I do. For example, nothing is safe. This is not a financial advice.
Exactly. You have to have your TNCs. Like, this is not financial advice. I'm not responsible.
Like, you can put it in Revolut or, whatever. Just put it everywhere. That's it. Not my problem. So I tend to, like, I'm okay with talking about, how the future can be and like what crypto can bring to the world, and but pushing it on everyone or anyone is not really something that I feel comfortable with anymore after that. It's just, I mean, you would say no one is safe anyway, like crypto or non-crypto, like there are banks that collapse too. Like it's not something that's unheard of, but it's just something that gets so much press that it just turns people away from the industry.
You know what's a good... Oh, sorry, Nicole, you're going to say something. Go ahead.
No, I was going to talk, well, just like the narrative, the minting narrative, and like the narrative around like NFTs, like ruining the environment, and how that was like, it was so polarizing.
That's such... you need to educate people and be like, no.
Exactly. That's then people need to do their own research and make their own informed decisions, not just kind of, and like, in certain communities, the least informed and angriest individuals somehow meet in the middle and make a lot of noise, right? And then they perpetuate these like news cycles, right? I don't know why that was a narrative for like 8 months, but it was.
Because especially these like far left like nut jobs don't do their own research. They're just caught up in their weird social, they're in their own bubble, right? And they're like, what is research? What is like, they just hate. Anyways, that was a long time ago, so I don't even think about.
Yeah, no, I think we're more on just like the helping people educate themselves and take ownership over that piece, because there's at the end of the day, it's like you can't control the narrative. But at the same time,
I feel like, I mean, do we want it to go to the masses? Because let's take an example. For example, Zora. It's really popular in people, around people who are familiar with crypto. Give it to your friend who is not familiar with crypto, and he would be like, what the hell is minting? Like, what is this? Is this like Instagram? What am I supposed to do here? Am I like, it's really confusing for them. And there could be a messaging and a narrative and like the explanation to everything, and it can be, more Web2 friendly, but we just don't make it this way.
Hot take, or not so hot take, right? If we're talking about how to enter Web3, or I guess more specifically like how we're onboarding the masses, and I don't think it's that hot to take, because I'm sure if you're anyone that works in our industry, you've probably seen it in every single newsletter and probably all of your crypto Twitter the past couple of weeks. And I think I said that, I don't remember if I said this last week on the stream, but at the end of the day, what we know is the biggest product market fit for crypto is finance. And we know stable coins are a giant, this is going to be the thing that I really think is going to red pill people, because when we talk about, and this is where the conversations about politics, macroeconomics, and the economies all come together, right? Because at the end of the day, we live in a post-World War II era where the United States has dominated the global economy. The dollar backs every single trade in the world, no matter how hard BRICS, aka Brazil, Russia, India, China, and I think South Africa and all these other countries are trying to fight it. And people want dollars. When I was in Argentina, they want dollars. When you go anywhere else, when you go to Africa, they want dollars. The greenback is powerful. And the fact that you have these digital dollars that now anyone can use and transact with without their government or their bank stealing their money and printing away all their value, it's so obvious. And now what I'm so excited about, now is Stripe, right? And their acquisition of Bridge and that $1 billion acquisition we saw last week, and PayPal diving deeper into it, Visa, every single bank. Like, I get so giddy about it, honestly. And you guys follow me on Instagram, so you see me post about this. I'm so excited because every single person that we know who may hate on crypto, whether they like it or not, they will be using stable coins in the next 5 years. So it's kind of like, hate it or love it, you're using it.
Yeah.
And I think
it's like the gateway drug.
It's the gateway drug. Yeah, exactly. And so future of finance, it starts there, right? Dollars, right? How do we digitize and create global access? Yeah.
I don't get the hate. I don't get it. Like,
people hate what they don't understand. I think
I think it's that simple.
What's there to hate?
They just don't.
It's the fear of the unknown, right? Like it's treading through the forest, not knowing how to navigate it.
The thing,
or speak to it.
the thing that always gives me, whenever I find myself like in question of, actually, this never really happens, but I guess the thing that keeps me going is when we really think back to the 90s and the rise of the internet. And when I first started my crypto journey, actually, I wrote an article very early on. I was like trying to start a blog. It was the only post I ever wrote. It was kind of like me trying to like summarize my whole thesis on all of this. But it's a news article, and I'm sure you could just find it somewhere. But it was a news article from, I think, like the New York Times or somewhere. And it was like sometime in like late 2000. And literally the headline was, "Internet, is this a fad?" And the whole article was just like, is this internet thing real? Like, is this going to happen? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm kind of skeptical. And now you're just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, the reality is the march of technology is inevitable. Technology, its entire purpose is to make things more efficient. People like efficiency. And that's why every single bank and financial institution in the world, whether they like it or not, is adopting or will soon adopt crypto and blockchain and what they do, because the idea of a trustless global ledger that moves money around is just simply more efficient than the fucking Swift and, you know, these global remittance systems we built 50 years ago, right? And the same thing is going to happen with media, IP, and all the other stuff we're talking about. I think it's going to take longer. But that's why we're here. Sorry, I'm just like yapping and ranting at this point, but I get very passionate about this.
You know, it's the same story of why in New York, where like on Fifth Avenue, the houses have stairs going to the road and they're not like on the same level with the road. It's because back in the day when you had horses, there was so much shit on the road that they needed stairs to come to the horse. That's and crazy. It was up until Ford came around. So everyone started switching to cars. So maybe the Stripe acquisition is our Ford, you know, where it starts with stable coins and then we put our roads everywhere.
Fingers crossed.
That's an interesting nugget you just shared there. I'm going to think about that next time I'm in New York. Every time, like
a shit nugget,
a little shit nugget. I'll just think horse shit everywhere. Amazing.
I'm building on that real quick bit of trivia, because that's a good piece. Adding to that, this was a real problem at one point in the early 1900s. There was so much horse shit in New York City that they literally like the streets, disgusting. Yeah. Anyways, fun fact. Just adding to what Paulina was talking about there.
But I also. I feel like when maybe we came to Web3, there was a lot of need. Like I remember a few years ago, everyone needed developers. It was just developers that everyone needed.
Yeah.
And right now we're more and more towards
marketers.
Different. I mean,
I think
I see a
it's
lot
like they feed each other. Like working with developer teams, they're like, okay, now we need a product because we have like a team assembled and we're like ready to like mint things, but we need things to mint. And then those things that were minted needed like a plan of how to go to market. And so it's like this whole flywheel that hasn't exactly been satisfied and actually like happening in silos. I think obviously like early Web3 marketing was kind of non-existent, or is like trad marketing applied to kind of like the Web3 space, which is incredibly nuanced, right? Like it requires a lot of experience and knowledge of the industry to be able to do it properly, right? And so I think these things are just, they've been like playing catch up, like and also like having the IP inform the developer teams of like, actually your smart contract should probably do this, right? There should be composability elements, or what happens when it's kind of these things kind of continuously, like I think competing, and we're kind of still in that space. I think the things have matured, absolutely, but we still have developer teams that need products or like a holistic approach, and products that need like marketing teams and better developers. So it's like
and designers
and creatives 100%.
But I've seen like a bunch of creative director roles and things like that, something that has not been around.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's exciting. I think that's going to be a great avenue for more people to get into this space and create more like diversified voices as we continue to kind of like build this path.
Here's a question for you, Nicole.
Layers. Yeah.
Try and bring it back to, I think, the original prompt, which is how to enter Web3, right? I'm curious, as someone who's been deep in the space for about 4 years plus at this point, right? And as we talked about, the market has evolved quite a bit. The space has evolved quite a bit, where people are looking for new things. I guess if someone were to ask you the question today, like, how would I enter? How much do you think has really changed, I guess, between here and there? Do you think it's more easily accessible, or actually less accessible in a certain way? Because it's almost like, I feel like, as the bull kind of died down and we were in the bear, and now we're kind of like in hopefully the beginnings of a bull again. The industry kind of expanded, unsustainably so, and contracted again. So is it actually like easier, or is it actually harder? I don't even know. Like, what do you think?
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, like, I would probably be able to give better advice of like how, rather than being able, like, I couldn't make that judgment call. I think there's probably more. Yeah. I think there's definitely more opportunities, as we're talking about, like, okay, now all of a sudden there's like other industries that are kind of rallying around Web3, right? So whether it's a financial industry or like philanthropy or creative industries, there's more industries that are kind of, being less experimental, more considered about their approach into Web3. I would hope that would beacon more opportunities, right? And it's funny because, like, when we were talking about, what are we going to lean into for today's subject, it's a question that's come up several times still from, like, friends and like confidants and things like that. How do I get into Web3? It's still a prominent question. The next step is like, okay, like, is there a way in? Yes, but then it's like, how though? So, I mean, that just comes back to probably what we all experienced is like organic. Like, it needs to be an organic experience. This is the Wild West. It will be blood, sweat, and tears. It is confusing. There's a lot of information. You have to want to do it, and you're only going to want to do it if you're passionate about, right, that space. So my advice would be to anyone: find what resonates with you and lean in, whether that is through YouTube or Twitter or podcasts or pulling a friend aside, right? Like, and really having, and like, I've had some really considered conversations. People that want to learn will do that self-discovery, right? It's just, you got to kind of build it. It's like building your own little company around,
but it's
around your journey.
It's the same in every space, right? If you want to be more in art space or something, you don't know how to get into it. Like, you don't know how to work in music, let's say. You start to look for people who are, made a name for themselves. Maybe where do they hang out? What do they read? Like, are they on LinkedIn? Maybe do they post something on Instagram or Twitter or whatever? And you try to see like what they learn and what they listen to, and if you feel like that interests you, then you can dive deeper. Because at the end of the day, no matter how I think the tech can be amazing and inspiring, if somebody doesn't get it or doesn't want it, they're not gonna do it, and it's sort of like lose for everyone. But at the same time, I'm happy that there are things like Shi-Fi, for example, because I recently met a lot of girls specifically who came out of Shi-Fi into Web3 and started to work, in Web3 generally,
Shi-Fi's
or look
great
for more opportunities in Web3.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting to meet more women in the space that are doing different things, right? I think at Token, Blake, you had brought me into the Safari dinner. And there was like, everyone I met was like so incredible, so amazing, so dynamic. And it was so nice to have that kind of balance, right? It can be, these events can be very
male dominated.
Interesting.
Just call it what it
very
is. It's a
unilateral.
Bunch of dudes. So it's been good to see the gender representation balance out a little bit, for sure. In certain parts, not everywhere.
In certain parts. I don't know. It's like
certain parts of the industry. Yeah.
I didn't go to the Diplo event, but I can imagine what the attendance was like.
Why is it like this? I don't get it. Like, why? There are women developers too. There are, there are a lot of us too.
I think it's network effects, right? I think it's really like, but there are female devs for sure. But the reality is, I'm sure if you look at the absolute numbers, like, there are still more men in the space for many, many reasons, right? Not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. And then those guys just bring in more guys. So that is where I think things like Shi-Fi are really important, right? Like, and Boys Club, which ironically is all women, right? Like, I think just having those spaces, it's good. And I think especially like, as we're a marketing community. I like to think we have a pretty good balance, but I think also we're lucky in the sense that marketing tends to be more friendly, maybe, than the dev community towards having women within it. I guess for many reasons.
There might be a different like socialization, experiences.
Yeah, exactly.
Of open, like
yeah. And like how society pushes people, and that's much bigger cultural issues that have to be dealt with. But yeah,
it's a different
chat.
Different chat.
What's our equivalent for sir? Because that's part of the lingo in Web3, and we don't have an equivalent for sir. It annoys the hell out of me when
Queen.
I get just.
I do say
you
that.
That's a good question.
Yeah. You're saying what's the female alternative? Like instead of hello sir with the SER?
I wouldn't want to be called ma'am either, to be fair.
Yeah, that's like
you can't win.
That's like geriatric. It's not. Yeah.
This is an honest question. Does it feel? Because I guess to me, like for instance, like I say, "Hey guys," but to me, guys is not a gender thing. It's just like to me, it's just everyone. So to me, it's like when I say hello sir, it's just like an internet meme that it happens to be male, but I don't know. I think
Nicole is like, I don't know.
I don't know.
No one's ever said like hey sir to me, but they say like hey guys. You know what I mean? Like hey guys is totally like I use guys all the time, and then I'm like, are there any Gen Zs in here or like
if somebody would say hello sir, I would be like, are you blind?
That's true. All right, fair enough.
Do I look this bad today, or like what's happening?
Paulina, I think we should start something. We've got to we can craft something.
Yeah. I'll push it out on Twitter. You'll push it out through other channels.
All the other channels, yeah.
You guys got to brainstorm it through Boys Club, because then you could really proliferate that meme if you get their backing, right? Or do it with the backing. Yeah. I'm
Good
waiting.
Idea.
Let me know, ladies, queens.
All right.
I don't know what the right term is.
Guys.
Let me know, guys.
Yeah.
Let me know.
Yeah.
That'd be good. What else? I guess. Well, I feel like, Nicole, we haven't really talked at all about when we talk about like how to bring people, how to enter Web3, like from the company side, right, and the brand stuff. Since we do a lot of innovation, right, and talking about how brands and everyone. Also, where's Potato at? We should show the folks. For those who may not.
I think he heard me talking about Web3 and like
he ran away.
I'm just kidding.
He's like, fuck crypto.
Oh, come here. He lies under my rolly chair, which is like very dangerous because I'm like, well, and he's like,
you're about to run him over. Yeah.
I did find a little bit of hair under the desk. This is Potato, guys.
Oh, let's go. Let's get Potato.
We had cats already on the podcast. Now we have.
Yeah.
So cuddly.
Then we get a dog. Oh,
he's very.
He's so snoozy. Is he?
Yeah, he's
just been chilling. Yeah.
He's been chasing cats. He's been chasing cats all afternoon and jumping in the neighbor's swimming pool. Mate.
It's a doggone life. That's what they say, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like honestly, I want to come back as him.
It's a good life.
Just sleeps all day, lives rent free. It's good.
I'm
He still looks at you and he's like,
yeah.
Like as a dog owner and being from NFT sort of meta, like did you ever get into any dog NFTs? Were you ever tempted to get any, or like
no, but but I've thought about like making Potato like a meme coin. Like there's been a lot of thoughts
dog
around dog
thoughts. Just thoughts.
Just make it happen.
Like fractionalizing ownership of Potato. I would never do that, but you said
I'd take a piece of
There's
that.
been a-
Yeah, let's go.
He's like, I just can't stop them. They're coming. All these thoughts.
He didn't consent to that, but I'm his mom, so
There you go.
it's allowed.
I would say if there was an NFT that would have probably the same breed, you would be like, I have to get it.
Oh yeah, I'd buy the whole collection. I'd be like, it's mine. Except she's kind of a mutt, so I don't know. That might be hard.
Many mixed attributes,
But,
you know. That's how it goes.
yeah.
Wait, but Nicole, I do want to bring it back to that, right? So the
Sorry.
brand stuff.
Yes.
Bring it back for a sec, right? I am curious just to get your take on, because I think it's something you and I have talked a lot about over the past year or two, right? Of, you know, there's a lot of industries that I think we're interested or we're exploring. You know, market conditions have shifted. AI is the hot thing, obviously. What's your general take, I guess, on, you know, different industries and brands that are curious about, you know, the latest and greatest in Web3? Because I think, you know, a lot has changed. Maybe let's put it that way, right? For the good and for the bad. I don't know. Yeah.
I think for the good. I think generally for the good. And when I talk about being more considered in Web3, that's definitely how I see brands approach. Obviously, more enterprise brands, they're risk averse, right? And so, you know, they're, you know, in the past, it's like, how do you pitch out a Web3 opportunity to these brands? It's a lot harder because it's you know, they're slow moving, they're top heavy, they're kind of allergic to it. And then on the other side, you would have these brands that are like, let's do a campaign and make a NFT and it means something. But that's kind of where it fell flat because it didn't create any value. No one understood why it exists. It wasn't part of a holistic brand campaign. Mm-hmm. And they probably lost money on it. You know what I mean? So none of these things Nike, actually work.
Right. Yeah.
Nike. Yeah. Nike. That was a whole thing. Gosh, that feels like forever ago. Yeah. But one thing you and I talk about, a word that we use is experiment. There's this big experiment wave, and I think that's not sustainable, right? What we look at for brands to bring them into the Web3 space is how can you build it into either a holistic product marketing campaign, it's a push, it's something ingrained in the DNA of your brand, because you can't do it as it just doesn't make sense from a one-off standpoint. So it's something that needs to be considered and also drive value. And we're seeing it kind of materialize in different ways. So, you know, if we look at Kiki, the makeup brand that's doing it. So they've kind of built a DAO and they're kind of tokenizing loyalty. And then they're also networking their products. When you use them, there's a kickback from a user perspective. We see it with the digital product passport, right? Of being able to potentially tokenize the knowledge of the production of the asset that you have, chain, right? And so that
all that stuff,
huge amount of value. And so now we're not just seeing it as an NFT push. It's the NFT is the technology. Let's look at the smart contract and actually what that's doing for you, rather than just a picture on a marketplace, right? And I think that's where we're seeing a lot more of a considered approach. So from a brand standpoint, it's looking at how are you able to leverage this technology to create value, like anything else.
Yeah.
Whether it's through payments as well, that's something that we talk about.
Yeah.
Especially with global businesses.
This is a question I used to ask on the one of the previous iterations of the pod, which is what's your hottest take what's your craziest prediction? Basically but I'm going to tweak it a little bit for brands. It's kind of end of year, right? So let's say for 2025, what's your craziest prediction for brands that might activate in the space next year? And you can get wild.
Who's going to do it, or what are they going to do?
Both. Who's going to do it and what are they going to do? Just go crazy with it. Yeah. Let's say the market really picks up end of this year. And then early next year, all the corporates, it's 2022 all over again. It's they're just going crazy for this. And they're we need to do something. They're going to do something.
I want it to be really boring. I want it to be boring.
What's the boring,
the whole thing with you know, tracking fakes, right? Using provenance.
Real thing, right?
Boring. So I want to snooze fest. I want to not care. It's so good. You know? I think that, and then also well, there's brands already doing it.
Yeah, that's
Pods is doing it right now. Yeah. We have cosmetic brands that are doing it. Because there's a lot of, I didn't know this, but now I'm should I stop buying stuff on Amazon? Cosmetic companies that create fakes, and so they're using it as a provenance factor, a validator. I would also say probably more networked products, but I don't know that we found the right fit, right? So when we talk about networked products, it's how are you creating, like, if I buy your product, and it unlocks like an experience, right? Maybe it's like loyalty, but then like, what does that give me? So I think we're going to see that kind of be explored a little bit more. I don't know if it's going to be good, but I think we're going to see a lot more of it happening. Like a good example is Wrangler. Was it IY,
Wrangler
IYK.
Yeah, IYK, and then they like created these, I guess they're
Chips.
patches that then, and then you redeem your NFT, and then it creates provenance for the clothing itself. Each piece of clothing was selected because it had a story around it, so you're creating a narrative, an emotion, and then I think you get like airdropped like music and stuff. But like we'll see where these kind of things evolved. I think that's going to continue to exist as long as there's like on a creative kind of edge. But I want the boring stuff.
Is there a brand that you wish that had like went into this? For both of you, question. What would be like your, sort of maybe top 3 or number 1 or whatever?
I have an artist that I wish had gone into this. It's Bill Viola, which is kind of, are you guys familiar with his work? He was like one of the pioneering moving image creators. I'll send you guys his drop links later. He, so there wasn't a lot of moving image in galleries until he started coming in the 1970s. And part of it was because you don't have like access to TVs and outlets and things like that. But he became this huge visual, like moving image artist, and he has these massive installations all over the world. Gorgeous. And he died last year. Yeah, I mean, it's just like some of the most incredible. Like it's my favorite artist. But I wish I could own a piece of his work, and the only way I'm going to do that is through a open mint or a fractionalized NFT. Yeah. So that, I don't know, that was like adjacent to the question.
No, I like that. Wait, Polina, the question was what brand or what artist or?
I mean, the question was a brand, but I think, artist is a personal brand. So it does count.
Honestly, for me, like it always goes back to Ralph Lauren. I think they were, I almost worked there. They're a big inspiration when I had my menswear brand back in the day. I still think they're the most iconic American brand out there. And I know they do a lot of interesting experiments. And they actually have a Web3 team. And you know what? I met them because they listened to this thing at one point. Unfortunately, my understanding, I don't know if they're listening right now, but my understanding is they did kind of pivot more into like what Roblox and all that type of stuff. So it's more like kind of metaverse, but not metaverse. Because what is a game?
Because it was hot.
That's the metaverse, right? We just had this weird hype that Facebook put out, over these like, and that'll happen eventually, but it's not there. But yeah, I would love to see. And by the way, fun fact, actually, bit of Ralph trivia for you. They had one of the first e-com sites in early 2000s. So because Ralph Lauren's son David is, and I don't remember his role now, but I think he is literally like their chief innovation officer. This is pretty early, and they were one of the first major brands to have a e-com site in the early 2000s. So they've always been experimenting. They haven't, and they did the Pool Suite activation last year, and they do accept like Bitcoin at their Miami store for Purple Label, but I want to see them do more, basically. And I want to see, kind of like Nicole's talking about, integrate it in boring ways and also cool ways. Fingers crossed. And now I feel like we should reach out to them, see what they're cooking up. I don't know.
Yeah. What about you, Polina?
Yeah, Polina, it is.
Like, I was curious, that's why I asked this question, but I'm not too sure. I think what I would say that something around like loyalty points, like air miles or like credit card points would be great, because it's so annoying that you guys, like for example in the US or in the UK, like credit card points are a really big thing. Like you can get a lot of stuff for your points. Like I have friends who have buy airplane tickets with their points.
I don't have anything like that. Paid to spend money. I only spend with credit card. I pay the full balance, don't get me wrong, but I do not pay anything with debit card. Yeah.
And it's sad to me that there are only like all these programs are closed up sort of. And I get it, like it makes no sense for them probably to share, but they can figure it out. Like we can all benefit somehow.
Wait, so are you proposing like Amex goes full Web3 at some point, or Visa, or?
I would use it. Like I would, I would go wherever the nicest bonus is, where the more points are.
Yeah.
No, but in Europe, like in Slovenia, they don't even take Amex in most places. So
there's that 5% fee, isn't it? It's like, no one takes it.
Makes no sense.
But guys,
isn't their thing like accepted everywhere? Amex? Or is that MasterCard?
MasterCard.
Yeah, I think that's not Amex. Yeah.
Because like Amex should be like kind of accepted in some places in Europe.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Certain countries are better than others for sure. Yeah, depends where you are. All right. Well, Amex soon or Visa soon, but more points.
Next time we'll come with ideas for all of them, and then we can just send them a podcast as a pitch and see if they're up for it.
Do like a live brainstorming for them. See, we did the work for you.
Exactly.
I mean, Visa and MasterCard, they're doing stuff, whether it's stablecoin settlement or NFTs, they're
doing the boring things, what we want.
Exactly.
We want
they're
that.
Doing it. We love the boring things. Wait, last question, actually. Just going back, I'm having like a flashback moment of like, we had some interesting questions we used to ask a lot. So I do want to, this one was one of my favorites, and I want to ask this one to you, Nicole, before we wrap up, is what do you feel like has been your biggest professional learning over the past couple of years? Not to put you on the spot too hard, but
you might break me. No, I think I mean, like the first one, this also feels boring, that comes to mind is like you're never done learning. I think it's like very helpful to know that like I appreciate the fact that I am 99.9% of the time never the smartest person in the room, which is fantastic. And I think it's humbling, and it's like, it's the drive. It's like why I love this space so much. Everything is so nuanced, right? Every partner we work with, you have to have like you have your foundational stuff, but like you've got to, the partner is a whole nother layer on top of that, whether it's like a Dapper protocol or a chain, and so I love that aspect of like continually being able to build my knowledge base and be surrounded by like incredible people. I think that's, I guess learning is like, I'm not the smartest person in the room.
No, but it's beginner's mindset, right? And it's like we're never done, and especially in this space, like as you're saying, everything's changing so quick. Like and even as marketers, right? We talk about marketing. There is no marketing playbook, because like last year and early this year was all Farcaster, and not saying Farcaster's done, but like not as prominent right now, right? And there's just always a hot new meta, and now everything's about AI. So how are you leveraging that? So it's just like, as you're saying, like you have to be nimble, because we're still in that Wild West era. It's also why it's so fun. That's why I love it.
100%. It's like,
it's the best.
It's wild. It's never a dull moment.
The alternative is Web2, where it's just like, what innovation is there? I don't know. I don't understand when people say they're in tech anymore. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what are you building? Like another fucking calendar app? You're building another app, a fitness app that nobody needs? Oh no, you're just.
I think people just mean they like. It means they have an Aura ring and they use an iPhone. That's
it just mystifies me as well. Yeah. Anyways, sorry, not to shit on all of Web2 tech, but I'm gonna do it.
Well, we're like, we'll see you soon. Yeah.
We'll see you soon. They'll be here soon enough.
Yeah. The door's open.
All right. Doors open. Come join us. Water's nice and warm. Heated by Bitcoin miners, by the way. Like Bathhouse in New York. Throwing that out there.
Oh yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
Right.
Really. All right. Anyways, we are running over. So this has been amazing. So thank you so much, Nicole.
Been a pleasure, guys.
Yeah, always fun. How can people reach you, by the way? Where can people find you?
Can't. Sorry, I'm at no.
Mine's in Discord. They have to apply.
Mine's in Discord. Yeah. Hit up Blake. No.
The fact that it's so hard for you to answer this question is just.
You're like,
no, because we're trying to figure out what my Twitter handle is.
Yeah.
You can find me at Miss Rochette or Crypto Holes on Twitter. So that's I don't know where Crypto Holes is. It might not exist.
It's not crypto. Just Miss_Rochette, or you can look up Nice Holes. That's her Twitter name. So you know you. There you go.
Nicole's like, yep, that's it.
That is me.
And I'm not ashamed.
No, I mean it's amazing. It's just weird to say it out loud. I'm a little like, okay, yeah.
I realized, like for me, it's normalized and like it doesn't come from like a sordid. It's like a joke on my name, Nicole, because a lot of people spell Nicole with an H, and like my friends started sending me packages like nice hole, like anyway. But then like it's also close to my Telegram handle, and so I do get a lot of like with clients like like maybe I should rework this a little bit.
It's a you decision
anyway.
But it's fun and it's memorable, so there you go.
I'm open to suggestions.
We'll brainstorm, we'll do a session. No, I'm kidding.
Sounds
Keep
good.
It's nice. Well, listen, thank you so much, Nicole. As always, you're the best. Thank you for everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you online. Come back every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern, and keep an eye out for the pod, which we release every following week. So give us a follow, give us a listen, and we'll see you all soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.
All right. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.